SIL endured 2 ults, leaving a letter that led my brother to disown his daughter. I raised her, but now he demands her house. In every family, there are stories hidden beneath layers of resilience, courage, and sacrifice. Some stories never surface. Others find their way out when the burden of silence grows too heavy. This is one such story, a tale of secrets, forgiveness, betrayal, and above all, the extraordinary strength of a woman determined to protect her family. Zara was a kind and gentle soul. She welcomed me, her sister-in-law, into her family with open arms. From the moment I met her, I felt an unspoken connection, a bond that seemed to grow stronger with every shared laughter, every comforting embrace, and every weekend spent together over lunch or shopping. Zara embodied love and warmth, and her bright smile could light up even the darkest of days. Our lives were filled with the normal hustle and bustle of a busy family. We celebrated milestones, endured mundane challenges, and faced the ups and downs of life with a sense of unity. However, nothing could prepare us for the moment when Zara received her devastating diagnosis, breast cancer. Her condition shocked us all. She had always been so health-conscious, so vibrant. How could something so insidious be growing inside her? We rallied around her, offering whatever support we could muster. I visited her during her chemotherapy sessions, bringing meals, offering words of encouragement, and watching over her young daughter whenever I could. During these moments, Zara often shared her fears and dreams with me. But one particular afternoon, she revealed something so deeply personal and heartbreaking that it forever changed the way I saw her. With tears welling up in her eyes, she began to tell me about a trauma she had never shared with anyone else. During her university years, she had been assaulted at a party. The details of that night were chilling, and the pain in her voice was evident. Zara spoke of how she had trusted my brother, her then boyfriend, to console her. But instead of comfort, she found herself facing disbelief, accusations, and judgment. My brother questioned her actions, implying that perhaps her clothes or her behavior had invited the attack. I was stunned. The man I had known as my protective older brother had not only failed to protect the woman he loved, but had deepened her wounds with his disbelief and judgment. Despite the strain this placed on their relationship, Zara found it in her heart to forgive him, and they moved forward, eventually marrying. Yet, she confessed that the memory of that night never truly left her. The pain, the betrayal, and the shame, it had haunted her every day since. Then, Zara revealed yet another heart-wrenching truth. A few years after the first incident, while working at a company she adored, she was again subjected to an assault, this time by her employer. She left her job suddenly, and though I had always wondered why she gave up a career she loved, I never pressed her for answers. As she spoke, her voice trembling and her eyes filled with tears, I realized the extent of the silent suffering she had endured. Zara's fear of telling my brother about the second assault was rooted in his previous reaction. She knew, without a doubt, that he would blame her once more. To make matters worse, she discovered that she was pregnant not long after the second incident. Her heart was torn apart by the realization that the child she was carrying might not be her husband's. She faced an impossible decision: to end her life or to continue living with a secret that could destroy her marriage. One evening, as she prepared to end her life with sleeping pills, my brother discovered her pregnancy test. Overjoyed at the news, he embraced her, thrilled at the thought of starting a family. Caught up in his happiness, Zara couldn't bring herself to tell him the truth. She carried the secret throughout her pregnancy, pretending that everything was normal. Her daughter was born into a family filled with love, yet Zara's heart was constantly burdened by the weight of her secret. When Zara was diagnosed with cancer, the secret she had kept for so long became unbearable. She knew her time was limited, and she wanted to ensure that her daughter would be cared for. One day, during a quiet moment between us, she asked me to make a promise: if anything happened to her, I would take care of her daughter, no matter the circumstances. I agreed without hesitation, not fully realizing the magnitude of what she was entrusting me with. Zara passed away peacefully, leaving behind a letter for my brother. The letter revealed the truth about her assaults, the real possibility that her daughter might not be his, and her deep love for him despite everything. My brother was devastated. He couldn't cope with the idea that the child he had raised might not be his. And in his grief and anger, he decided to disown his daughter. He told our family that he couldn't bear to look at her anymore. And he intended to give her up. True to my promise, I took Zara's daughter in and made her a part of my life. She had just lost her mother. And now her father had abandoned her. I knew she needed stability, love, and care. My brother, meanwhile, chose to move on with his life, cutting all ties with me and his daughter. He remarried and had 2 more children, but he never looked back. When we gathered for the reading of Zara's will, it became evident that she had planned meticulously for her daughter's future. She left all her assets to her daughter, ensuring that she would have a secure life even in her absence. My brother, however, was left with nothing. His anger knew no bounds, and he demanded that I hand over the money and the house Zara had left for her daughter. He accused me of betraying him, of choosing Zara over my own family. Despite his accusations, I stood firm. I knew that Zara had left her daughter in my care for a reason. She had trusted me to protect her, to give her the life she deserved. The house and the money weren't just assets. They were a symbol of Zara's love and her desire to give her daughter a future filled with possibilities. I couldn't betray that trust, no matter how much pressure my brother put on me. Years went by, and I did everything I could to provide my niece with a normal life. I enrolled her in the best schools, made sure she had opportunities to pursue her passions, and tried to give her the childhood she deserved. But there were always questions about her father, about why he wasn't around, and about what had happened between her parents. It broke my heart to see her struggle with these questions, but I knew that she was strong, just like her mother. As she grew older, my niece began to understand the complexities of her family situation. She realized that her father had chosen to walk away, that he had not been there for her when she needed him the most. It was a painful realization, but it also made her stronger. She decided that she didn't need him in her life, that she could be happy without his presence. When my brother contacted me years later, I hoped that he had finally come to his senses. I thought he wanted to reconnect, to make amends, and to be a part of his daughter's life again. But instead, he asked for the house that Zara had left for her. He had fallen on hard times, and he believed that he was entitled to the property. He wanted me to sell it and give him the money so that he could support his new family. I was stunned. After all these years, after abandoning his daughter, he had the audacity to ask for something that rightfully belonged to her. I refused, and our conversation quickly turned heated. My brother accused me of betraying him, of taking sides against him. He demanded that I give him the house, insisting that he deserved it more than his daughter did. But I couldn't do it. I had made a promise to Zara, and I intended to keep it. The house was my niece's future. It was her security, her stability, and a symbol of her mother's love. I couldn't take that away from her, no matter how much my brother insisted. I knew that if I gave in, I would be betraying everything Zara had fought for. My brother left, furious and resentful. He told me that he never wanted to see me again, that I was no longer his sister. My parents, too, were disappointed in me. They believed that I should have helped my brother, that I should have put family first. But I knew that I was doing the right thing. My niece was my family, and she needed me more than anyone else did. As I watched my niece grow into a strong, confident young woman, I knew that every sacrifice I had made was worth it. She was resilient, compassionate, and determined, just like her mother. She knew her worth, and she refused to let her father's absence define her. She had her own dreams, her own goals, and I was proud to see her chase after them with everything she had. In the end, this story is not just about loss and betrayal. It is a story of resilience, of love, and of the unbreakable bond between a mother and her child. Zara may not be here anymore, but her spirit lives on in her daughter, in the choices I made, and in the life we built together. It's about the promises we make to the people we love and the strength it takes to keep them, even when the world seems to be against us. This journey has taught me that family is not just about blood. It's about the people who stand by you when times are tough. The people who love you unconditionally, and the people who are willing to fight for you no matter what. It's about resilience, about finding hope in the darkest of times, and about believing in the power of love to heal even the deepest wounds. To those who have faced similar challenges, who have been betrayed by the people they trusted, or who have had to make difficult decisions for the sake of their loved ones, know that you are not alone. There is strength in vulnerability, in admitting that we are not perfect, and in choosing to do what is right, even when it is the hardest thing to do. Zara's story is a reminder that even in the face of unimaginable pain, there is hope, there is love, and there is always a way forward, if we are willing to take that first step. Thank you for listening to this story. If it resonated with you, please share it with others. And remember, no matter what you're going through, you are stronger than you think. And you are never alone. After my wife's betrayal with my business partner, I guard my daughter's future while they try to reinsert themselves in our lives. In the silent hours of the night, when most people are deep in their dreams, the knock on the door came, a furious, desperate pounding that shattered the calm. I wasn't expecting anything or anyone, certainly not at that hour. As I peered through the door's small glass window, my heart sank. It was Kathy, my estranged wife, the woman who had left me for my best friend and business partner, Leon. She looked disheveled, frantic even, and I knew in that instant that something was terribly wrong. But let's go back a bit, to the beginning of this mess, where everything started to fall apart. Kathy and I had been together for 19 years, married for 16, and I thought we had built a life together that was solid. Something meant to last. We had a beautiful 14-year-old daughter, who was, to me, the light in a tunnel that had become increasingly dark over the past few months. The tunnel had begun with an unexpected discovery, an affair between Kathy and Leon. Leon had been more than just a business partner. He was a close friend, someone with whom I had built a company from the ground up. We were two people who had left our jobs, taken risks, and believed in each other, or so I thought. It started with a nagging feeling, one that I ignored for too long. Kathy had been distant, distracted. It wasn't as though we were arguing or fighting. In fact, it was the absence of everything, no arguments, no discussions, no laughter, that made me uneasy. She wasn't just distant from me, but from our daughter too. I wanted to believe she was tired, stressed, maybe overwhelmed with her own life. I remember one night seeing her sitting in our living room, her eyes blank as she stared at her phone, a ghost of a smile crossing her lips. That was when I knew something was wrong, but I didn't know what. The revelation came 6 months ago. In the most mundane of ways, I picked up Kathy's phone to charge it, and that's when I saw the messages. My heart thudded painfully as I scrolled through messages between her and Leon. Messages that weren't meant for my eyes. There was love there, a familiarity that shouldn't have existed between my wife and my partner. I confronted her that night. I thought there would be tears, denial, maybe an explanation, something. But she just looked at me, calm and relieved. She said she was tired of hiding and wanted to leave. She told me she had never really loved me. She had married me because she was pregnant and scared of being alone. It felt like a knife had been driven into my chest, and she twisted it with every word. Even after she said all that, I found myself asking her to stay. Maybe we could work things out. Maybe we could be a family again. It was a ridiculous request, but I was desperate. She was irritated, almost annoyed that I would even suggest reconciliation. She wanted to leave. She wanted to be with Leon, the man she said she truly loved. Within weeks, she moved out. Leon sold his shares in the company and moved to Boston with her. I was left alone, with my daughter, trying to make sense of everything that had happened. My daughter, on the other hand, seemed almost relieved. She had witnessed the silent withdrawal of her mother, the disconnection, and for her, it felt better to not have to see it every day. She and I grew closer in the aftermath, leaning on each other, finding comfort in the small moments of normalcy we managed to build. The weeks after Kathy left were some of the hardest of my life. There were mornings I woke up feeling empty, the weight of the empty side of the bed pressing down on me. I would walk into the kitchen, expecting to see her making coffee, and the sight of an empty kitchen table would bring tears to my eyes. But every time I felt myself sinking into that pit of despair, my daughter would come into the room, her presence pulling me back from the edge. She was stronger than I had realized, stronger than I was. At times, she would sit down with me, talk to me about her day, make jokes to lighten the mood. It was in those moments that I realized that no matter how broken I felt, I had to be strong for her. One day, as we sat at the kitchen table eating breakfast, she looked at me and said, "Dad, we're going to be okay, right?" I looked at her hopeful eyes, and I knew I couldn't let her down. I nodded and said, "Yes, sweetheart, we're going to be just fine." It was a promise I made to her, and to myself. From that day on, I focused on rebuilding our lives, not the life we had before, but a new one that was just ours. And then Kathy returned. A knock at the door at 11 p.m. A face full of desperation. An arm with a bandage. She stood at the doorstep, accusing me of hiding Leon's true nature from her. She claimed he had become abusive, that he had thrown a vase at her in a fit of rage. She blamed me for it, saying I should have warned her about his real character. I stared at her, stunned. How could I have known? The Leon I knew was composed, professional, a good partner. I had no idea about who he was behind closed doors. And I certainly wasn't responsible for her decisions. My daughter heard the commotion and came to the door. She was furious, and for the first time, she let her mother know how she felt. She told Kathy that she had no right to come back, no right to make demands, no right to play the victim. My daughter's words were harsh, but they were true. Kathy had abandoned us, and now, because her new life wasn't working out, she wanted to reinsert herself into ours as if nothing had happened. After that night, Kathy showed up again, this time with a lawyer. She wanted full custody of our daughter. She accused me of turning our daughter against her. She claimed she had stayed away because she didn't want a custody battle that would hurt me more than she already had. It was all lies. She hadn't fought for custody because she wanted to leave quickly and start a new life. Now that her new life was falling apart, she wanted our daughter back. But my daughter was 14, and she had a voice. She made it clear to me that she didn't want to be with her mother. At least not now, not after everything. Leon called me, desperate to find Kathy. He hadn't heard from her, and he wanted me to tell him where she was. It was ironic. The man who had taken everything from me was now looking to me for help. I told him where she was, hoping he could convince her to drop the custody case. They had made their choices, and now they had to live with them. I had my daughter to think about, and her future was my only priority. The mediation didn't go well. Kathy wanted everything, but I refused. She wanted to see our daughter on weekends, wanted Leon to rejoin the company. It was absurd. They had left me, destroyed what I thought was a solid foundation, and now they wanted me to make things easy for them. I stood my ground, and eventually, they realized they had no chance of winning in court. I offered a compromise. I would talk to my daughter. And if she wanted to see her mother, I wouldn't stop her, but that was all I could offer. My daughter chose not to see her mother. At least for now. She wanted time to process everything, to heal. I respected her decision. I wasn't going to force her into a relationship that she wasn't ready for. Kathy and Leon went back to Boston, and for the first time in months, there was peace. It wasn't perfect, but it was enough. Through all of this, I learned a lot about myself, about resilience, about what it means to truly protect the ones you love. I realized that sometimes, the best thing you can do is let go of the people who hurt you, even if they were once the most important part of your life. Kathy and Leon made their choices, and I made mine. I chose to focus on my daughter, to give her the stability she deserved, to show her that even in the face of betrayal, you can still find strength. There were moments during this journey that tested me beyond what I thought I could handle. Seeing Leon break down on my doorstep, crying because he didn't know where Kathy was, it took everything in me to not lash out, to not tell him how deeply he had hurt me. But I chose to rise above it. I chose to be the person my daughter could look up to. Someone who didn't let anger and bitterness take over. In the end, Kathy and Leon may have found their way back to each other. But I found something far more important, myself, and a deeper connection with my daughter. We moved on. Slowly but surely, building a life that was ours, not defined by the betrayal we had endured but by the love we chose to hold on to. As the months went by, I began to notice changes in myself. I was no longer haunted by the image of Kathy and Leon together. The pain that had once been so sharp had dulled to an ache. And eventually, even that faded. I started to focus more on my business, throwing myself into projects that I had put on hold for too long. I hired new people, expanded our services, and slowly but surely, the company began to thrive again. It was no longer just a way to make a living, it became a symbol of my resilience. A testament to the fact that I could rebuild, that I could succeed even after everything had fallen apart. My daughter and I developed new routines. We would go for walks in the evenings, talking about everything and nothing. We started a small garden in the backyard. Something she had always wanted to do but never had the time for. We spent weekends exploring nearby parks, trying out new recipes, and just enjoying each other's company. It wasn't the life I had imagined for us, but it was a good life, a happy one. One evening, as we sat in the garden, my daughter looked at me and said, "You know, Dad, I think we're stronger now than we were before." I looked at her, at the young woman she was becoming, and I knew she was right. We had been through so much, but we had come out the other side, not unscathed, but stronger, wiser, and more connected than ever. The best revenge is to live well. It's to show the world, and yourself, that the worst things people do to you won't destroy you. Instead, they will teach you, shape you, and make you stronger. The protagonist's journey wasn't just about overcoming betrayal. It was about finding strength in adversity, about protecting what truly mattered, and about choosing love over bitterness. He may have lost a wife and a business partner, but he gained something far more valuable, the knowledge that he could stand on his own, and the love of his daughter, who saw him as the hero he truly was.